Hi, this video tutorial is to inform you about influencing skills. Let's get into the world of influencing skills and understand what it has in store for us. Leadership is an influence, not more, not less. Well, this was the quote given by John Maxwell. We will not just enter into the journey of knowing the ifs and nos about influencing skills. We will also talk about a small particular technique in order to gain influencing skills and how to be more effective in our personal relationships and at professional work setup too. Moving on, we have a course overview with these pointers where we will start off with talking in lines with the influencing skills as a definition or what is influencing skills. Moving on, how to influence people, one of the most asked questions, and I guess more or less we all have this thing back in our mind. Maybe I should be improving on my influencing strategy. I have to really get on to be more effective in terms of my influencing skills or to convince and persuade people. Moving further, effective influencing skills. So what are the skill sets that needed to be good at influencing someone? Influencing specifics at the workplace, then moving on, how do you influence anybody? Further, personal influencing style, 5 steps to increase your effectiveness towards being an influencer, and top influencing skills, that's something we will certainly discuss. Communication influencing skills, well, I personally feel that the effective communicator you are, the better you are at influencing skills. So I will certainly throw some light on this particular slide with giving you some example and a case study which really happened in a professional segment, and things were really accounted in a different manner altogether. Influencing skills for the key roles and influencing others, that is anybody, and then a small review about the entire course that we are going to are in conversation with, and then the entire review about the course we are in conversation with. The first slide of the day, well, influencing introduction. Influence is a power. Well, it is a totally accepted statement. Well, influence is a power are the most potent words that one can hear, because you can actually be powerful when you have the ability to influence anyone, be it at work or any conversation that you're holding in today's world. So what is most important out here is not just having the personality traits to be good at communication or just to be good at convincing skills, but to lead towards the facts, and each time you lay out an information, the person should accept the very reasoning or to be influenced by you. So this particular slide, I like to quote few examples, maybe in public, from the public area, or anybody who has made it to the list of being a top influencer. So there are a lot of politicians who actually make their way through only by giving out hard-hitting examples, statistics and facts which can actually sensitize a listener. So when you and me are listening and we are in our audience level and we are just naive to everything what's been happening across, and this person comes overboard and gives out all sort of statistics, all sort of factual information, and there you go, he has all the power to influence us. And I guess this is fairly done by all public speakers and somebody who's been in the fraternity of influencing the citizens, influencing anybody for that matter. So influence is certainly a power. Moving further, how to influence people, how do you get others to accept your ideas? Well, there's one question I'd really suggest you to ask yourself, and each time you go back and answer this question, you might have different ideas towards the responses that you would collect eventually, because this differs for every time you interact with a person of different caliber, a person of different exposure, different background, and your responses would vary. So when I say how do you get others to accept your ideas, so what do you do basically? Do you speak good? Do you really simplify the information? Are you less complicated when you're giving out information? Are you less complex while sharing the statistics and factual data? Or you're just there by the person's side and allowing the person to sink in all the information of what you're giving. So just have that exploration as to what went really well and what might have gone really well while you were giving out information and the person was really influenced by the information layout that you have given. Well, I remember one sort of that case study during my experience as a platform speaker, that is coming in from a corporate training industry. Well, it always and is a mandate that as a trainer, I need to be very thorough with my statistics, very good at my information sharing data. And each time I miss out this, I might not have all the influence coming in from the listeners. So being in an industry where you are actually influencing the others as a trainer, as a teacher, for that matter anybody who's in a public platform, it gets not just important to understand, analyze and respond as per the what audiences are looking out for, but also while sharing the information you need to be very very clear about what data you're presenting them. So data is one authentication part of giving out information. The other most important thing is your communication style. So you need to really go down to level to make others understand that you are here for the person, you're here for the people, and you're here for giving out some sort of information, and there you go, person gets influenced. The next slide is effective influencing skills. Well, do we really have one? Well, we certainly have certain skill sets that can make you to be here. So have you ever been in a situation where your effectiveness was actually questioned, and you were asked to really go back and probably relook or relook into the entire concept of what have you broken down on something called your skill sets towards influencing others. So it could be as simple as a life of a student, or it could be as simple as a life of a sibling, that is either being a brother, playing a role of a brother or a sister. So have you actually been in the situation where you had to really go back and think over a situation and you've brooded over the situation not at the right phase? So just go back and relook into the entire journey and start questioning as to what didn't go well. Well, effective influencing skills are very basic, what you say, knowledge levels to be shared. That is, a person should know his or her influencing style. Well, moving on in the next few slides, we will also learn what is personal influencing style for each individual, and that is something natural for all of us. Well, I'm one of those persons who can talk and influence people, whether or not they get influenced or not, but communication can certainly by power take and influence an individual. So moving further in the next slide, we will talk about specifics about the workplace, that is, how do I influence somebody? Well, communication ongoing can certainly help you to be effective, not just for discussion, not just for a healthy discussion in a team meeting or at a workplace, but it can also help you to build what you say, the professional relationship with the person. So each time you make that attempt to build a relationship with the person is where your power for influencing that can increase. So the better you are at relationship management, the better you are an influencer. Now this is something we all have to go back and think over. How good are we at relationship management? Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, we all have to rate ourselves, 1 being the least and 10 being the highest. Well, if I have to quote back my example, I might not fall into the highest category, because relationship building, relationship bonding needs extra consciousness and extra effort that you have to lay out, and that's something on a very conscious lines that you have to do it, not just for a day, not just for a second day, but it has to be done each day ongoing. So think on if you are not good at it, and if you really would like to pull up on your relationship management skills, because eventually you're a good influencer. That's been proven by all the research work, all the studies which has been conducted across, that each time I build a trust in an individual, I create the natural rapport with the person, the better I am at influencing somebody. So the next slide is about how do I influence, that is, how do you influence. So do you generally follow any rule game or set of rules while you influence somebody? Do you actually follow a checklist while you do so? If so, then maybe, and that's helping you, and that actually was able to track you to be a good influencer, then the suggestion is to to be the entire checklist to be continued. Otherwise, we have to really look back and understand what has been our communication style, what has been a gap area, what are the gaps that have been identified in order to help us achieved this or which not helped us to be an influencer. So generally influencing has varied proportions to look at. So it is to do with trust, it is to do with the rapport, it is to do with the relationship category that I hold with a person. It has to do with a personal natural style that comes in. It has to do with the amount and the exposure that you have, the conversation of exposure you had with this person, and certainly the time duration and time bound, because it's a time bound activity. So next slide is about personal influencing style, one of my favorite segment of conversation, for simple reason it is very imperative that you and me analyze our natural style, what comes in very naturally for us. So there are a lot of us who believe the fact that they cannot start a conversation with a stranger or with an individual until and unless the person actually approaches and starts. And once they, the others make an attempt, they're pretty on with the conversation. But do you think always can we take this as a standby point and to not make that attempt to actually make ourselves available for the conversation with a stranger? Well, definitely not, because we are in a world where each time we collaborate, we actually make ourselves available with the person to have a conversation with, the better we are and the better and we are successful. So each year we have this rules laid out by all leaders who have been gurus and who have been great influencers, great managers, and great leadership cadre people. So they come up with certain skill sets which they feel have helped them, and there's something they would like to give out information to the general public. So a lot of articles which have been shared on internet clearly says that the number one skill set needed to be an effective leader is to influence somebody, because when you're leading, when you are there to help somebody, when you make yourself available as the very word leader, you're doing nothing but you should influence, and you are influencing somebody out there. So understand your natural style, what comes in naturally to you, whether making that first attempt comes in naturally to you with the stranger while talking or communicating, or whether maybe just giving out information and building the trust comes in secondary to you all. So it's really imperative that we really sit back and question ourselves as to what our natural style is, because this actually makes you to be more effective, or rather ineffective influencer. So this slide is about 5 steps to increase your influencing skills. Well, one of the most needed information of the in the slide is knowing and understanding as to what can help us to be there and what didn't work for us as well, where you actually go back and introspect yourselves, what really didn't work in my last conversation, and hence I was not able to influence somebody. So for me, influencing skill is one of the most important skill in day-to-day conversation. I guess personally, I feel it is one of the most important life skill, because each time you're conversing with somebody, you're somewhere getting your influencing skills there. So you convince your mother to actually allow you to maybe go and watch a movie and ask some money from her to take care of your part of the day for excursion, or probably to buy tickets. You're doing nothing but you're actually influencing your mother to help you and be there. So you understand, influencing is just not matter of concern for something in boardroom meetings or only for the higher ups or officials. It could be as simple as day-to-day conversation with your mother, with your sibling, or maybe somebody back in your college or school days. Okay, so moving on, rationalize, that is really make a logical attempt of knowing why do you have to influence somebody. So you need to be quite logical out there as to what is the need for us, and why are we actually getting into the phase of influencing somebody there. So do you have an agenda behind it, or you do not have an agenda? Does your job role demands it, and do you think in the present conversation is allowing a person to get influence to you most important? So that's where we go. And the second step is assert. That is, assertive conversation can certainly help you to be there, because assertiveness can lead towards, being more effective in terms of to be a great influencer. So let's moving on, negotiate. So negotiation skills can happen in general conversations as well, where you negotiate for simple reason, being late to work, where you negotiate in your conversation that you were late, hence whatever the conversation that you're trying to portray out is being taken, is being negotiated by the listener. So it's important that I need to have that right and appropriate negotiation skills to make it be there. And inspire, that is, how do I inspire somebody? So inspiration can happen by anyone. You don't necessarily have to carry a cadre to yourself, that you don't necessarily have to be a politician, public speaker to actually inspire somebody. You can be an inspiration to your own self and can also help inspire somebody. So one of the fourth steps of to be an effective influencer, because once we analyze the situation, why we are influencing somebody, we are assertive in our conversation because we know we have the clarity of what we are trying to say, and we are very clear in our conversation. And negotiate in terms of convincing somebody with the ability to inspire people, inspire the listener. The last but not the least stage is bridge, that is bridge the conversation. So while you influence, you bridge the conversation by giving all sort of facts and details about why this information is important, why do you think the person should more or less be convinced with the conversation that's happening with the speaker who's actually giving out the information. So this 5-step module can actually make you to be big, successful, and things that you actually need to know about influencing skills. The next slide is about the top influencing skills. Well, more or less influencing skills can certainly deal with something called persuasion skills, convincing skills. These are all interconnected and interrelated. So let's understand, you cannot influence from outside, that is you just have to be really convinced thoroughly from within. So if you are not holding the conviction of what you're talking and what you're sharing, that's on. I mean, you can never ever achieve the stage to be to influence somebody and to be an influencer again. Moving further, match the currencies. So I do not mean technically to match the currencies here, but match the tone, match the conversation, match the expectations, what is needed and required. For example, an organization which has given out products and products to the consumers, and consumers have certain set of expectations. So there are a lot of brands in the market which speaks out the exact conversation, tone and connotation of what a customer needs. So that has been really bridged well, and that is what matching the currencies means. That is your product quality with the gap which has been identified is matched really well there. Moving to the next step, develop the credibility. Well, this doesn't happen overnight and cannot happen in a year or 2 years as well, but you have to put in a lot of efforts to be there with the amount of exact trust which is needed each time and every time in the conversation. So when we actually go back and deal this particular step in our own individual life and as well as as an organization, as an employer, what is most important is I cannot forego the fact that credibility once broken cannot be accounted. So let's ensure that the trust element is always held, and for no matter what, it cannot be diluted. The next stage is develop affinity. Well, affinity is a very strong word, which is a love for the entire process, the process of influencing somebody, allowing the person to actually sink in the information, allow the person to listen to your information really well, and then you have that amount of affinity for each other. So if you as an employer would do so, an employee would have the same natural affection towards you, and likewise the emotion can be shared. The next is impression management. Well, impressions have always been accounted for one reason, that once made are lasted forever. So we don't necessarily have to spend much time in understanding this particular line, but these have been again tried and tested formulas to be a great influencer. So the next slide is communication and influencing skills. The better and effective communicator you are, the best influencer you are. So analyze how can you be good at communication and make it to the top level of being a great influencer. Let's pick up leaders such as Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, for that matter, anybody who's doing fairly well at an organization or at a hierarchical level in a company. They are all able to make it. They are all able to influence us, and we all accept everything that comes out from their mouth is because of this very ability, which is communication skills. Next slide is on influence skills for key roles. Well, certain key roles certainly demand to be a great influencer. You can never have a negotiation deal out there. That is, you cannot go low in your influencing skills and still make it to a fact that the audience or the listener should get influenced to you. That can never happen. Few specific roles have the prerequisite to be a great influencer. Influencing could be within the team discussion, with a client conversation, or during a client visit, or probably grabbing a project, grabbing an essence of the entire project layout. So you need to be very clear about the reason that the influencing skills for key roles is a mandate, at least at workplace. And likewise, if I pick up certain examples in the personal life as well. So a role of an elder brother, a role of an elder sister, all are influencers to the family, aside our parents. So influencing others, well, more or less we all have influenced somebody or someday or for someone, but how effectively we have done, we have to go back and relook into it. Something which really worked for you and which is working for you is something you're natural and good at it, so you've been influencing. Something which didn't really work, and you have to really go back and check. So go back to the earlier slide where we have spoken about the stages and different the strategy that you need to be applying in the next conversation. Further on, a review, a small summary about what we have just went through in terms of knowing the journey of influencing skills. Effective communicator is equivalent to be a great influencer. Thank you for watching.